Today I am celebrating World Techno Day. Now, this is an unusual inclusion, perhaps, because I'm generally celebrating a particular person and their achievements. Maybe it's a particular occasion or time, but here I'm celebrating a genre of music, and there's plenty of genres of music that are going to be excluded from this list. But techno is something which is very close to my heart, even though it confuses me greatly. Now, I'm someone who really appreciates the natural world. You will have noticed that nearly all of these videos have been recorded set in trees, in nature. It's always an occasion for me to get out and breathe some fresh air and get into a natural environment. And although I'm no enemy of technology, I'm not afraid of it, I use it, I employ it, there's no getting away from it. And I do believe that technology may yet have incredible roles to play in the advancement of humanity, even in finding partnership with the natural living world. But techno is something confusing to me. Now, I grew up as a musician, someone who loved to play music, and so it was always a miracle to me how we could take the spirit of what we're feeling and manage to communicate that through an instrument, whatever instrument came to hand. And I mean, as someone who likes to play real instruments, it was surprising to me the first time I really enjoyed electronic music, and yet there was absolutely no doubting that this was music, that it had just as much funk or groove or body or sensation as any other music. And when you find people like recently I celebrated Richard D. James, there's absolutely the Aphex Twin. There's absolutely no doubt that people have managed to create incredible textures and feelings and communicate all the things that we classically associate with music through electronic media. And yet to kind of then begin to actually look, or even to start to want to play electronic music, was a surprise to me. And yet I did buy my first sampler and absolutely find myself completely enthralled and make music with it endlessly for many years to come. And then computers, and how can I deny the benefits of electronic music? It's incredible, and most people watching this probably will like some electronic based music. Not all. I know there are some people who just cannot tolerate the thought of it. Well, to those people especially, I want to communicate why it is I have this love for techno. Because of all electronic music, techno must be the hardest to love. Now, I'm not talking about trance music, don't get me talking about trance music, but techno has this incredible power to it. And why is it that I like to surrender to the power of machines when I see so much brutality and cold-minded, it seems like machines, that machine mentality is what's driving so much of the corporate hell that we seem to be descending into. And yet, surrendering to a drum machine which keeps its beat so regularly, so ruthlessly, there is no error. Every beat happens where it should be. Let's say should, I don't mean that, but when dancing to techno music, one can have absolute faith that the next beat will land exactly where it's supposed to. There's no fallibility that you can find in humans. Now, good drummers, good musicians have that similar machine kind of capacity to just play a beat that makes us want to dance. But techno has given us the ability to amplify that noise so enormously, to create it. And the best techno musicians create these textures that are undeniably human, and yet it's like the spirit of humanity has been breathed into the machine. And so it combines the best of what it is to be both human and machine. I have spent many a night dancing all night long to the sound of techno when I can find good techno. And good techno has generally been played by musicians. The best techno, my favourite electronic DJs and musicians, have tended to come from Detroit. They have tended to come from African American backgrounds, employing polyrhythms and things that we associate with African percussion music. And as a percussionist myself, who has loved the music of West Africa and played it an enormous amount, finding it represented and mirrored in this language of Detroit techno was something that I loved and immediately resonated with. You know, to find a group of drummers that can drum all night long is something that I've never experienced in the West. Perhaps if I go to the heart of Africa one day, if I get to do that, I will find groups of people who literally dance from dusk till dawn, playing these, you know, incessant rhythms that, you know, but I've never found that. And techno is the closest thing that allows this kind of shamanic catharsis to occur. You know, I'm sure some people hear that word shamanic in association with techno and just groan and think, oh my goodness. But what I'm trying to get at here is that there's something that happens when one surrenders to a beat, when one makes the decision that I am going to dance all night long. It instigates this physical process that unavoidably has an effect on our emotions and our spirit, and like many of the trials of life that people used as rites of passage, it's a process of endurance that leads to some end point that allows the spirit and the body to disconnect in some ways, to unite and reunite in other ways, and allows for something really profound to move in what it is to be human. If it hadn't been for those experiences, and I continue to have them, although I find it harder and harder to find somewhere where I can actually go and have a good night dancing to techno, because there's so much techno now which just feels insipid and plastic and lacking that breath of life, that humanity that really brings it to life. So, you know, when I'm talking about techno, it's not just any techno. It's a very, very particular brand of techno that manages to really embed what it is to be human into this very artificial texture. Oh goodness, I could try and explain it forever. It's one of those things that I suppose you just have to feel, or you don't. There's probably no persuading anyone who doesn't feel a tiny soft spot for what it is that I'm talking about. But anyway, this is why today I'm joining in the celebrations for World Techno Day. Who knew? I never knew it existed before I started looking out at what else was out there, and I thought that is something that I cannot but join in with. So here's to World Techno Day.